Our next guest is a politician, attorney, and former federal police officer in Brazil, who's at the current Conservative Political Action Conference, also known as the CPAC. He's currently there right now, where he participated in the 2025 International Summit Against Human Trafficking. The goal, ending modern-day slavery. Let's welcome Eduardo Bolsonaro. Really good to have you, sir. Appreciate your time. Before we get into the trafficking stuff, I know it's very near and dear to everyone's heart right there at CPAC. It's a great event. It's a great purpose, a great cause. Something everyone should be concerned with. I'd like to just step, because so much is going on in the global political scene right now, especially with Brazil and some of the other, let's call them Latin American countries and the United States. Specifically, sir, your family. Your family has been, well, let me let you describe to the folks what's going on with the new regime in Brazil, Lula da Silva, and what he's done to the Bolsonaro family, and why do you think this is happening?
Yes, the problem in Brazil is about the lawfare. Actually, President Lula da Silva, he collaborated with the regime, but he's not the main person who is doing all of that. The number one, when you talk about persecution in Brazil, is the justice from the Supreme Court, Alexandre de Moraes. This is the man that is always doubling down, as he's doing now, against Trump's tariff. So what basically is happening recently is that Trump applied 50% tariff against Brazil. He made a letter letting clear that Brazil is receiving 50% because our institutional crisis, because our political persecution, not only against my father, the former President Jair Bolsonaro, but also against their supporters and our family. Just now, I discovered now through the press that even my wife's bank account just got frozen. So this is the level of the regime. As the regime cannot touch me because I'm living in Texas, here in the United States, they go after all of my family, even my wife. So this is the new normal of Brazil. Maybe you are suffering with the great resets right now. And we have a short time to change things. That's why I appreciate and I thank President Trump's Secretary Rubio, because they are taking attention about what is going on in Brazil before this regime get consolidated. This is a very sensitive point. Only to finish this first question is because if diplomatic action like sanctions and some others, if they are not applied right now, then it's going to be too late, because the regime, they are going to consolidate the power and turn Brazil into a Venezuela, where nowadays this kind of action is not worth anymore. So this is the big picture of Brazil. Only one country in the world that's censoring tariffs with censorship and jail.
So you know, it strikes me that this is very similar to what the United States government tried to do against Donald Trump in the interim between his two terms. They tried to throw a bunch of lawfare at him. They tried to drag him through the court systems. They went further in Brazil with your family, with your father, seizing bank accounts, actually having him wear a cuff, right, to walk around, and he needed to be followed at all times. The question is Brazil ready to go back to the dark ages of almost dictatorship? I remember growing up, Brazil was almost a dictatorship. It became very brought into the mainstream. Free market capitalism was working in Brazil. It feels like this is a step backwards. Is Brazil ready to go backwards, or is there another Bolsonaro? Another Bolsonaro. I'm looking at him right there. Interested in maybe taking the torch.
Yeah, Brazil is basically following the steps of Venezuela. In Venezuela and in Brazil, you have a Congress, you have Supreme Court, you have institutions. But at the end of the day, all of them, they're working for the regime. So they wanted to get Jair Bolsonaro out of the next year's election. As just me, I couldn't be a successor of my father. So that's why they are opening investigations against me. I always had a clean background. They are not accusing me about corruption or laundering money, nothing of that. They are accusing us to be for conspiracy, for insurrection. But there is nothing linking us to any kind of movement like that. So it's just they create narratives and they just don't care about the reality. They're going to convict everybody who represents a danger to this establishment. And they already openly said that they learned with the US, and they are not to do the same mistake that the US did, which is let the leader of the polls run for president, in case of President Donald Trump. They're not going to do it happen in Brazil. That's why they are running as fast as possible to convict Jair Bolsonaro still this year and not in the next year, where we have elections. So it's very essential that we receive this U.S. help now, because after it'll be too late.
Well, there is, I don't know the Brazilian constitution, but there may be an opportunity for the son of Jair Bolsonaro, namely Eduardo Bolsonaro, to win the presidency and pardon his father, who may be, in jail from the prior regime. It's a thought, and the reason why I'm saying this is because
They would not recognize this pardon.
well, okay, so, but I'm trying to figure out if let's put it this way. How is the American experiment that's going on right now with Donald Trump 2.0? Markets are making all-time highs. There's a lot of prosperity. A lot of people are happy. Some folks aren't, but a lot of people are very happy with this second term of Donald Trump. How is that playing with the people in Brazil? Not the Brazilian government, because I know they're freaked out because they're leftist and they're workers' parties and they're all progressive leftists, but the people, the actual people on the street of Brazil.
The people in Brazil that follow politics, they know that you do not have tools anymore inside of Brazil to fight against this establishment. That's why they recognize that my work here, bringing the truth of Brazil to the U.S. authorities inside of the White House, inside of the Congress, it has a lot of value. And that's why this regime is persecuting me and my family in Brazil. Because the only hope that we have is coming out from outside, from the United States. That's why people in a recent poll, one day after Trump applies the 50% tariff against Brazil, that's why in every each 10 Brazilians, 4 were in favor of tariffs. And that's a great number. I was expecting like maybe 10% was in favor of the tariffs, but no, 40%, almost 40%. So this is a great number and shows that the Brazilians are okay assuming the risk that even having reflect in our economy, but to support actions to pressure the regime. And there is no way to create richness inside of a regime. And in Brazil, they are realizing that it's not worth you delay some actions, and it's still working and paying your taxes to sustain this regime. This is not going to happen to Brazil. And again, that's why we are in a very crucial moment. And not everybody in Brazil already wake up, but especially in the conservative movement, I can easily tell you, 80% of people, they are supporting President Donald Trump.
Mr. Bolsonaro, do the people of Brazil realize the success that President Bukele in El Salvador is having by bringing himself into the Western world, by creating a relationship with Trump and the American people and becoming more like the center-right of America versus the years of the leftist dictatorships that's been just plaguing South America and Central America?
President Bukele, he's pretty famous in Brazil. People is looking more and more to El Salvador. I've been there recently twice. I did go to the famous jail, the CPAC, and what he is doing is great. And basically, he can only does that because he got a majority in 2021 in the Congress. So there are two powers, the executive and the legislative, against the judiciary. That's how Bukele could clean the Supreme Court of El Salvador, and then he's not getting blocked anymore to do what is needed to be done. So after that, after 2021, he started to do reforms inside of the Congress. And basically in El Salvador, what he's doing is he's sending criminals to jail, and he does not let them get out from jail. That's why Bukele, he has the support of almost 90% of the people. That's why he got re-elected. And everybody in Latin America should follow his steps. There is a way, get him outside of this fake human rights vision and bring the criminals to jail and let the society safer. That's the Bukele's message that we should copy.
I wish the best for Brazil. I wish the best for your family. Folks, if you just tuned in, this is Eduardo Bolsonaro, whose father is Jair Bolsonaro, who's being persecuted, really persecuted, not prosecuted, in Brazil, much to the same way Donald Trump was persecuted for 4 years in between his 2 terms. We would love to get you back again sometime, Eduardo, and also maybe we'd love to talk to your father, if he'd be willing to do that as well. Love to get him on the show and have this conversation, because I think you guys are on the right track, and I hope you steer Brazil back into into conservative prosperity.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Alexandre de Moraes, even before any kind of condemnation, he does not allow my father to do interviews, to use his social media, or even to have conversations through the cell phone with me. This is just unbelievable. He is basically under a house arrest, and that's Brazil. There is no way to call this as a democracy. And all of that because he's leading the polls. God bless Brazil. God bless America.
Well, God bless you, sir, and keep the fight, man. Keep the fight. That's all. You never quit. My mom told me on the last 2 words on her deathbed: never quit. So we wish the best to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.